If it's undercovered, underreported, or a waste of time, you can be sure we'll be heard. Nothing is off limits.
Welcome to Broad Street Radio.
Welcome to Broad Street Radio. I'm Michael Morris. With me is my good buddy Shayne. Shayne, let people know who you are, the legend that you are.
One, thank you for letting me be a guest here on the show. Shayne McAndrew. I am a agent with Shepherd Insurance Partners, where we find the best policies we can for you: home, auto, commercial, business. We're advocates for you, located here in Grove City, and we also have an office in Commercial Point.
Do you have an office in Ottawa? Because there's a lot of truckers who are losing their insurance right now.
There are, and you know what? We specialize in trucking insurance, so give us a call. More than happy to help you out.
We were talking before we did this show, and we were talking about not the convoys and all that, but you brought up truckers and all that, and it made me think about the Ottawa situation. So first, give me your take. What do you think about what you see up there?
Oh, man. I think it is great to see people standing up for something they believe in and fighting for a cause that is important to them, and using a tool that's like a truck or something related to their business that can really hurt an economy. It really gets the government to listen to their opinion and what the people actually want. And the truckers, they're the everyday people. They're the people they're the backbones of the countries, and they are someone that they should be listening to.
Did you see the documentary that Sylvester Stallone did? It was called Over the Top. He had to arm wrestle for a truck.
I have not seen that. Did he win? Of
course he won. He won. If he would have lost, he also would have lost custody of his son. It's a fantastic movie.
But what about the truck?
No, he would have lost the truck as well. He had to take on Bo Hurley. Listen, you're going to have to watch this movie and understand it was the #1 movie when it came out. Just so you know, it was about arm wrestling and trucks. And that's what I see when I see Ottawa right now. I see people fighting for their freedom and probably for their families. It's a direct parallel.
Absolutely. I
really wish you would have seen this movie, because
I haven't seen it.
It's upsetting me. Listen, when you watch it, you're going to be so upset that I told you to watch it.
It seems more like a documentary now that you're speaking.
It is now. I feel like Stallone was in Demolition Man, which is what our future is right now. You can't say anything that's not politically correct and all that. And he was in the trucking movie. Is Stallone our kind of like gateway to the future?
He's kind of seems like that is the go-to.
Because I really think Rambo is next. And I think that's going to happen in Washington here pretty soon.
You know what? I keep hearing that a convoy is making its way down there right now and going to be blocking the
super
expressways down there.
That. They are going to start from, they haven't said what town. Right.
So I believe it started in Pennsylvania somewhere.
Well, so if you look at a map of the United States, one of the reasons that Columbus was known as a big drug hub is because when you look at the freeways to Pennsylvania, like you can go anywhere from Columbus.
Yeah, it's kind of like that center point of a lot of different major cities.
Right. So there's so many different routes, and I think they're going to have to come through Ohio at some point. But they're supposed to start in California and then get all the way to D.C. by probably the second week of March. Now, what I think is funny is a couple years ago, we had all these protests in the street for different reasons, and things were on fire and all that, and it was mostly peaceful protests.
Sure.
Why is it different in your opinion? And again, I'm not picking on you because I'll give you my opinion on it, but I don't see the difference in those protests in this. Other than these truckers bouncy houses for their kids and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I think the difference. I think you see a lot of negative publicity in regards to this one because it is outside of the political norm of what they are protesting against. So I think it makes it very difficult for the media to get behind them right now, at least the mainstream media areas that we typically watch.
Well, the part about the mainstream media that I think is really desperate is that the person that's writing the checks for cable news are the drug companies that are pushing for these mandates. So, you know, we're going to buy when Jim Biden said he's going to, and yeah, I said Jim, he's going to push for 500 million vaccines. He's going to order them. Well, someone's got to take them, right?
Absolutely.
So if they don't, then you're stuck with all this that the government paid for with your tax dollars, by the way. And if that thing starts to falter, it's going to be like, well, why did we order so many? When you have a mandate and you're going to force people to do it, if you run out, those drug companies, we got to restock it, right? This convoy, I think, could be the end of all of this or the beginning of something new. And I think it's going to be, you're going to see another kind of false flag. There's going to be, quote unquote, violence there. And that's why we got to clear them out.
The problem is we need to actually see where the violence is coming from. And two, they have the trucker convoys have the potential to collapse an economy. I mean, that's the biggest thing that you're going to see come out of this, and that'll probably be less reported on than everything else.
Well, because they're gonna talk about the thing that in the newspaper business and television, they would say, if it bleeds, it leads, because a headline is what gets you to either pay attention or buy something. People
love
right?
that stuff.
Well, we all do.
They eat it up.
When I see that somebody fell off of a building, you've got my attention for 5 minutes if you're going to show me a recreation of this thing. If somebody says, hey, nothing bad happened, there was a cat in a tree and we rescued it, not as interesting, right?
No, absolutely not.
We all want the adrenaline rush of seeing something horrible. Mm-hmm. As long as it doesn't happen to us or people we know.
Everyone loves to watch the train wreck.
Yes. It's beautifully stated there. Because, again, when I'm seeing what's going on in Ottawa, I'm happy to see it, because it is people expressing their beliefs without harming other people.
Peaceful protest is accepted, and no matter what your cause is, as long as it's a peaceful protest, you have the right to do so. That's why we live in the places we live.
Correct. And I think like the Black Lives Matter situation, I was okay with that. If you think that you want to protest, I'm all for that. That's what this country is supposed to be about. What I don't understand is why you're clearing people out. If commerce wasn't involved, like you said, with the trucks are what's bringing the food and the toys and the diapers and all that other stuff, they have more of an impact by sitting still than moving.
Yeah.
Right. And in California, the reason that people were so upset is the majority of truckers that deliver things are non-union. So if you didn't get the mandated 2 jabs plus the booster, you couldn't pick things up and deliver them places. That's the part that the media is not telling you that is unfair, is if you're an O&O, an owner-operator, you don't have a say. So you have to comply with this just to haul this crap from Sacramento to Wisconsin or whatever it is to do your job. You own your rig.
Yeah, it was a very tricky way for them to enforce something without enforcing it.
Well, when Gavin Newsom had the union leader with him because they struck a deal with the union, those people have no choice, right? It's like somebody that works at Walmart. If you like your job and your company says you have to do this,
put food on the table for your family or don't eat. I mean, those are the options.
Would you ever join a union shop based on what you've seen? Union selling out people?
Never been put in that situation, so really,
I should tell people that I thought this entire time that you were former military because your tattoos and all that, like your look. And I said, "What branch were you in?" You're like, "I was never in the service."
Yeah, I've gotten that a few times. If you can't see, obviously, I have an entire sleeve, but I'm got the long sleeves on today, so you can't really see.
You look like you're in shape, like you're training for something. And I thought it was to go to the Ukraine. Like I wasn't 100% sure if you were going to come today because I figured you'd be on your way over there to defend the borders. No, I'm
not. But if the call comes, I'm ready.
Well, why do you have that military looking backpack, by the way? That's the other thing that threw me off.
I think what kind of threw you off is a double strap. I don't do the single strap carry. And maybe that's just kind of like the look of the military too. So
well, either you're an Army Ranger or you're Luke Skywalker and you always have something on your back.
There could be a parachute in there ready to jump off a building.
I was really excited because what we were going to talk about today was the Ukraine until I realized neither one of us has military experience. If you're looking,
I played Call of Duty for a while.
Let's just talk about Call of Duty for 1 second, okay? Can I just tell you how pissed off I was? I'm very old school, so I want to wait until, I didn't watch Sopranos until it was off the air for 5 years, and I decided I'm going to go back and watch this. So now I'm really hyped up to talk about something that people are like, yeah, man, we're kind of over that. So I bought Call of Duty Modern Warfare because I'm like, nobody's playing it. No one's going to bother me. It's taken me 2 days to download the God blessed thing, and I still haven't got it done. I haven't done anything on it yet. I hate it. I hate technology.
You just got to go to GameStop and buy a hard copy.
I do have it. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to get into this conversation. You're getting me off track. But getting back to, so if the convoy does get to DC and it slows down because inflation's already hitting us, right? So it's over 7-8. Like the number that they tell you, you have to kind of like multiply that. So when they say it's only 7%, it's really going to be closer to 10%, 11%. And now they're saying if the war kicks off in Ukraine, which as listeners of this show know, I am pro Putin. That's my guy. But if it does kick off and they're saying gas is going to be more expensive, everything's going to be more expensive. That convoy at the same time, I think the coverage will go to the Ukraine versus that convoy. I think this is very shady that all this is going on at the same time.
Well, absolutely. I mean, another thing you can throw right in there is that news that came out about Hillary Clinton the same day with the Trump campaign.
Oh, what news is that?
Oh, I can't speak of that. We're on Ukraine. That's what we have to talk about.
No. We can skip Ukraine. I like this topic better. Let's do this.
Oh, this is where you want to go. You know,
but it all ties together, right?
It does all tie. I mean, basically she was in cohorts with the whole Russia thing to basically infiltrate
the Russiagate situation,
Trump's campaign efforts. Basically, it was what they came out with almost facts on it, didn't they? And almost that same day, went right back to Ukraine, and that was swept right under the rug.
She hired a firm. So this tech firm wanted to work on her campaign and then be put into the White House and get a government contract. And so they were spying on Trump Tower as far back as 2015. So they were spying on his computers, phone calls, all that kind of thing. So when the whole Russiagate thing came out and they said, we've got proof that he's colluded with Russia. And they said, how? We have all this documentation. So when Trump was saying it's all made up, they spied on my campaign, the best part is where he's talking to Leslie Visser on 60 Minutes. And they left it in to make him look bad, like he was paranoid.
Right.
And he said, Leslie, they spied on my campaign. And she said, you can't prove that. That's not true. That's being used now over and over where now you do have the proof, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have that comes out. And of course, she said that never happened. He's just out of his mind. I totally believe what Hillary Clinton says. We have the trucker convoy.
She's given us no reason not to believe her.
First of all, I want to know who's killed more people, Ted Bundy or a Clinton, anybody, even the cousins. Somebody in there has killed a lot of people that has a Clinton name. Didn't
somebody else just die in jail that was connected to the Epsteins? And isn't Bob Saget somewhat connected to them as well?
Let's not go on Bob Saget for a minute. They found him in bed on top of the covers, by the way, fully clothed. And they said he died in his sleep peacefully. And then
with a bump on his head, right?
He had 2 fractures of his skull. Now, the fact that he went to Epstein Island, maybe that's a thing. And you can look that up. You ever see those flight logs?
Oh, yeah.
Why is Jay-Z?
Lots of really good names on there.
Yeah. Why is Jay-Z or Will Smith? I said this morning, if I was Will Smith, I'd be making as many public appearances as I could so someone knew where I was at all times. Because you don't want to be by yourself anywhere.
Well, why do all of them look 20 years younger than what they do as well?
Well, there you go. That's what my bigger concern is when you look at this. There was a woman that was, I think, Miss Alabama or Miss Georgia, who went off of a 3-story building. And she was one of the ones that was reporting on the Hillary Clinton situation and the Epstein thing. Just happened to fall out of a window. Have you fallen out of a window a lot? It's a tough thing to do.
No, I haven't fallen out of one yet, to be honest with you.
What about the former Miss New York? She jumped out of a 10-story window. Another beauty pageant girl.
I didn't even know those windows even opened.
Have you ever been to a hotel like in Orlando? I can't get the blinds open. I don't know how these people are chucking themselves out the window.
Right.
But it's all happening, and then people are just kind of like, yeah, that's terrible, and moving on. There's a lot of people that are ending up dead, and there's a lot of, when you start to trace it back, they're going to the same.
Don't connect.
No.
Zero connection.
I don't know. I don't know if we live in scarier times right now, or this is like if you lived during the 50s and 60s, then the mob was just taking people out, and you're like, yeah, that's just how business gets done.
Well, I think it's really the same, but we have exposure now. There's a camera everywhere, and everybody has some sort of media account to where we can connect to anyone across the world. So you actually hear about things now. Before, you just never knew.
How's there not a camera showing somebody going in and out of the hotel where Bob Saget was? Seriously, if
That's
you
a really, really good question.
when
I think
OJ
that's
was
probably
arrested,
out of our pay grade.
I know, but when OJ was arrested for trying to steal his Heisman Trophy back, there's cameras in the lobby. There's cameras by the hotel room. They're not in the hotel room, but you're telling me nobody walked out in and out of that room?
Let's talk about even a more important thing. If somebody comes to my house or he's even driving by my car, I have a Ring doorbell camera and I can make out a license plate.
Right.
But if you daggone rob a gas station or at a hotel, it is like a 1942 camera. You can't see anything. I'm like, how come I can have a Ring doorbell camera that picks up high def, but daggone it, any public building, it's like you can't. They blurred faces.
There's just too much that's going on where people, I was telling you when we were crossing the street, Shane and Ed and I were crossing the street. Ed's off camera. He doesn't have a mic, so we don't have to worry about him. But
Hi, Ed.
As we're crossing the street, we were talking about some of these things, and it's just like there's no random occurrences. It's like every day there's another thing that's coming out. So like the Dominion voting system, now the government says, well, we don't want you going through it. Why would the government care if you went through it? If everything's on the up and up, why would you care? Do you know what I mean? We pay for those machines to be in service that we use to vote. And as I always say, I voted 9 times in Illinois, and I don't regret my vote. But if everything's on the up and up, let us see the information. Same with the vaccine stuff. Why do you want to save it for 75 years before you expose that information? Yeah. Let us know what's going on right now.
Why not?
I don't know. Sometimes I think that like that novel 1984, like we're living through it right now. And this is more interesting than that book. It's odd to me. And we don't talk about these things much when we talk to each other, but it's always nice to get somebody else's take. Cause sometimes I feel like I'm crazy. Like when I do it on the show, I think a lot of people think this show should be called like the Tinfoil Hat Podcast, but these are all real. These are things in the news or in newspapers. And it's like, but nobody seems to care about it.
No, and nobody seems to think that anything's related either. I mean, have you seen the new movie that was on Netflix, the Don't Look Up? I mean, if that's not a political satire that just cuts on anything, I mean, there's some comical things on there. You could disagree or believe whatever you want to on it, but I mean, it's funny no matter what you look at it.
I think that when you see that stuff, like I really think Adam McKay, that he's the guy that put that movie together. I think he was trying to make a point. Like, hey, dummy, you should be paying attention as a human being what's going on. And we don't. Because as long as my television works, as long as my phone works, if I don't have to interact with people like we would have had to do 20 years ago, like we would have actually I would have to call you on the phone, ask you to meet me somewhere. Now we can do things with our phone and communicate, but we're not really emotionally attached to each other. It's all transactional. The more transactional that we are, the less likely we are to come together and do anything. That's why I think that trucker convoy, that's a completely different world. Mm-hmm. To get that many trucks by just saying to somebody on a CB, not texting them or anything else, meet us here. I didn't think it was going to work because of how we disassociate from other human beings now.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not meant to have that much information. I mean, we were meant to live in communities and have 50 contacts at most. I mean,
Right.
a couple good friends. You having information across the world and knowing all this. Our minds, I mean, we're creating our own issues by all this information that necessarily it does pertain to us, but it doesn't at the same time, and we're driving ourselves crazy over it.
Let me ask you this. With everything that's going on, are you happy?
Yeah, I'm very happy when I don't pay attention.
But my point is, do you feel like there's a stress, like if you walk out a door, like there's stress waiting for you? I always feel like the more that like you just said, the more that I'm paying attention, the more agitated I become.
Right.
Because I do want to know the information, but I feel the burden of that information. If I don't tell you about it, that it sticks with me. And it's like, I think it kind of rots you that you're not giving this information to somebody else.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
I envy the person who has 20 acres down in the boondocks who lives off their own land and doesn't have to worry about anything.
And doesn't have Wi-Fi.
And doesn't have Wi-Fi.
When I was in here, I wanted to talk to you about something that I needed to look up real quick. I had to get on the Wi-Fi. The conversation we're having now has nothing to do with what I was looking up, but I had to get on the goddamn Wi-Fi, right? That's what I'm saying, is that I see a lot of people that they seem unhappy about things. And I think that everyone's on edge because everything is racist or everything is transphobic or everything is you're anti-vax or whatever it might be. And I feel like everyone is walking around unhappy or on a little bit of the edge, that we can't really enjoy the time that you spend with somebody else. That's just my own take on it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think technology is such a gift, but such a curse at the same time. But we are missing out on so many little moments in life. Watching your kids. I mean, go to a sporting event. How many, if you watched any of the All-Star stuff this weekend and you could see everybody on the sidelines during the dunk contest and everything else, they're almost watching it through their phone instead of enjoying being there, being present, and being in the moment. Instead, they're worried about how fast I can get this on social media and how many likes I can get. And they're not even watching it because they're literally watching it through their phone.
Well, that likes and shares and all that, it feeds into our ego. It means that somebody else likes what we're doing. They approve of it.
You need an outside source to make you happy.
Right.
And you'll never be happy.
The best example I can give you is I remember when I started my company, I would leave my phone on 24 hours a day. And my daughter and I, every Monday night she's going to be 15 years old. So for 13 years, every Monday night, we go to the movies. And probably the first year or two of it, if somebody needed something, I wouldn't answer that call, but I would text or email them back. And we get out of the movies, and she's probably 4, and she says, I wish you didn't have to work so much. And I was like, I didn't understand what she meant. And she said, if people could just leave you alone while we're at the movie. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to shut this phone off. So I would started to go to shut it and give it to her. So she saw, you turn it off for me. I turn it off or turn it back on when it's over, but I let her do it. It was the biggest difference maker because I wasn't really engaged like I should have been. And I kind of do the same thing. If we're going to have coffee and all that stuff, I leave my phone in my pocket. If you pick up yours, that's okay. But I do feel this disconnect. Like what I'm saying is not that important. Right. And I think that we need to get back to, if we're going to sit down and talk about anything, I want to have a very passionate conversation. I don't give a shit if we're talking about marbles, if that's what you want to talk about. But be engaged in that time because you have all this other time not to be paying attention. We don't do that anymore.
You can actually see how comfortable a person is with themselves is when you're sitting with them having a conversation and that awkward moment of that awkward silence comes up and how they handle that small situation. Are they that person that goes directly to the phone to buy that time because they need that instant distraction? Or are they able to sit there, maybe look around, see what's going on around them and enjoy that moment of awkwardness? Because if you think about it, those can be great learning moments at the same time. But no, we dive right back into our comfort zone of looking at another electronic.
But to think about my mom gets a new phone and it's always a used phone and it's always something it's not an iPhone. So I don't really know how to use it either. And so she's always wanting me to fix this piece of shit. She's only doing that because it's another way to connect. She's not going to use the phone. She just likes that I teach her something. Whereas, I wish we could get those out of our lives just because, again, we don't really spend enough time with each other that we're really pouring ourselves into another person. We're not making each other better. It's almost like there's a checklist. You're on that checklist and I'm just going to get through it all. And you're going to regret that when you're older. Like the generation that we're in right now, we haven't had those 60, 70-year-old, 80-year-old people that look back and say, boy, I wish I would have spent more time with my family.
I'm curious of what our minds are going to be like when we're 70 and 80 years old.
I'm wondering if we'll unplug from it. Now, the younger generation, I don't think will be able to. But we remember the time where, you get on your bike and just go in a direction and try to find some other kids.
Oh, my gosh. Street lights came on, time to come home. That was like everybody's rule,
But we're the last generation. And again, we're not that old. But the generation behind us, they are automatons. They can't undo it. I think when we get older, everyone I talk to that's around our age, like Jonathan's always talking about, I just want to be on a farm where no one can find me. Yeah. Which is not really the answer. It's not that I don't want anyone to find me. It's that I want to get away from all this and talk to the people that really matter.
Right.
How the hell did we get there from the trucker convoy?
I don't know. I live out in the country too, just to finish that up. And I'm not far enough out. I want to go even farther out.
I just want to say that I appreciate that we had this Oprah moment for like the last 15 minutes.
I feel like we kind of had a heart to heart.
If you were
A little bit.
If you were a lady with that same beard, I would be really attracted to you right now.
You know, what's funny is we're in an AM Spirit networking group together, and the ongoing joke with me is I'm Father Time because I keep track. I'm the Sergeant of Arms. Am I saying that right?
No.
At arms. Boom. There we go.
Which is the other thing is
Which
we
we
have to
call it.
remind you all the little rules that come with
Every
it.
single time I get it wrong every time. But really what it should be called is Father Time because I keep track of all the time segments. So we've made a pact there that I'm just going to keep growing my beard until my time is up of being in that role. So, and then I'm going to dye it gray so I can really get into my role and carry it well.
Well, that's it for this week, buddy. But thank you for coming in. You've been listening to The Male View, and we'll see you next week.